Alright folks, welcome back. Today on the channel we're going to do something a little bit different. It's Core Set 2021 Release Day, and to commemorate we've been given a nice box of product by our LGS, and we're going to open it, see if we can't get some nice Grim Tutors or Ugins or even new Teferis himself. And stay tuned until the end of the video as well, where we'll open up a pair of Jumpstart boosters that we have ahead of launch date too. I'm excited to crack into this box of boosters. Core Set 2021 is a fantastic product. I made a video on Wizards reprint policy, and Core Set 2021 really shows us that Wizards can know what they're doing when it comes to reprinting cards that are in high demand. We've got cards like Solemn Simulacrum, Ugin, the Spirit Dragon, Grim Tutor, and more being reprinted this set. Let's hope that we can get not only some of those, but some nice product too. There are over a dozen cards in the set that are currently pre-ordering over the price of a pack. So right now, there's quite a bit of value in this. Let's get started. All right, and once again, I'd like to thank my LGS Extreme Collectibles for allowing me this box. We'll crack into some of these packs and see what we've got. Without further ado, there are a few uncommons in the set that are going for $1 or more as well, so we'll keep an eye out for them. Some nice commons. Oh, there's a nice looking Teferi's Protege in the new frame. There's Good Dog himself, Selfless Savior. Basri's Solidarity in the new frame. Malefic Scythe as well. It's an interesting one. And hey, speaking of reprints, our first rare in our first pack is Solemn Simulacrum. Okay, and we get a nice foil planes too. Okay, and a soldier token. I really like the way that Wizards is doing their tokens now. This new full art borderless token. Okay, we'll keep tokens and lands over here. We'll keep our rares and mythics up here, and then anything in terms of a nice uncommon or something in a new frame, we'll keep separate as well. We'll try and keep tabs on overall value of the box. Okay, so not a bad first open. I know that I said recently in my artifacts video that we should be playing Solemn Simulacrum less. It's not really a good fit for all decks, and it seems like a lot of people are playing it in all decks. About, 40% of decks run Solemn Simulacrum. Unless you can really abuse him, there's no sense running him over other more efficient ramp. Okay, into our second pack. Some nice stuff. Good old Fetid Imp. Portcullis Vine. Chandra's Magmut. It's a nice little pinger. Turn to Nature. Archfiend's Vessel. This is one that I really like. I think it's nice and simple. A 1/1 for 1 with lifelink. That when it enters the battlefield, if it enters from your graveyard, or if you cast it from your graveyard, exile it and make a demon token. I think there's a lot of ways to make good use of Archfiend's Vessel in a lot of decks. We've also got Canopy Stalker, must be blocked, and when it dies, gain a life for each creature that died this turn. Good way for going wide. Good backup if your board gets wiped as well. We've got Heartfire Immolator. This is the 2/2 with Prowess. You can sacrifice it to deal damage equal to its power to target creature or planeswalker. I wish that this one did damage to players. That'd be a nice finisher for a Storm deck or a Storm build. And then we've got See the Truth. Look at the top 3 cards of your library, put one of those cards into your hand and the rest on the bottom. If you cast it from anywhere other than your hand, put each of those cards into your hand instead. This is good in a lot of blue builds. If you're running Mission Briefing or Snapcaster Mage, or if you're running Mages of the Future or Future Sight or even Elsha. This is a great card for some great value. 2 mana to draw 3 cards is fantastic. And we've got a Fancy Forest, which is real nice. An Angel Token. And foil Aven Gagglemaster. That's 2 foils in 2 packs. Are we getting more foils than normal in these packs? But 5 mana for a 4/3 flying. When it enters the battlefield, gain 2 life for each creature you control with flying. Very nice. On to pack number 3. Spined Megalodon. I like that they're printing a lot more sharks. I'm personally terrified of sharks, but I think that having sharks in Magic is some nice flavor. Village Rites, this is a solid common. In any deck where you would normally run Altar's Reap, Village Rites is a card that'll fit right in. It's Altar's Reap, but an instant in 1 mana. Classic Shortsword, Goblin Arsonist, another classic, Daybreak Charger, Rookie Mistake, Alpine Houndmaster. This is a good one for those cat and dog decks that are popping up now. We've got one of the new temple or shrines rather as well. We've got Sanctum of Calm Waters. Draw cards equal the number of shrines you control if you do discard a card. This is going to be a cornerstone if Shrine Tribal becomes a thing, as I mentioned in one of my other videos. Talarian Kraken as well. This is a good one too. Good value if you're drawing a lot of cards. A big bulky body. Good combo engine too. I've seen some combos pop up around Talarian Kraken. And our rare is Idol of Endurance. When it enters the battlefield, exile all creature cards with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard until Idol of Endurance leaves the battlefield. And then you can cast these creatures from your graveyard. This is a good way to get value from weenie decks. As many white decks in the format are very creature heavy. This is a good way to, late in the game, get more value out of them by recasting them. Then we've got one of our tap lands, Swiftwater Cliff, and a weird token. Not only is it a weird token, it is a weird token. Love that art. Look at that. If that doesn't scream, is it to you? I don't know what does. Here's another good dog in Selfless Savior. Obsessive Stitcher. This one's really neat. I just really like the art on this one. She's sewing her own hand onto her masterpiece here. But it's a decent looter if you're looking for a blue-black graveyard-centric deck. There's another Malefic Scythe. And hey, speaking of good dogs, we've got Pack Leader. We've got our dog Lord in this one. Other dogs you can control get +1/+1. Whenever Pack Leader attacks, prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn to dogs you control. On his own is just a 2/2 for 2, but when he attacks, is preventing all damage all combat damage that would be dealt. It's a decent one. Oh, we've got a funky looking Plains too. I'm really liking what they're doing with frames in this. We've got a Witch's Cauldron, Twin Blade Assassins. At the beginning of your end step, if a creature died this turn, draw a card. Not bad. A little bit bulky for 5 mana at a 5/4, but if you're looking for card draw, it certainly fits into black and green, especially if you're doing an Aristocrat build. Something on a budget, maybe a Slimefoot. That's a good fit there. Then we've got Burlfist Oak. Whenever you draw a card, it gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Decent if you're drawing a lot of cards, which we see green do quite often recently. And we've got Kervek the Spiteful. This guy is a 3/2 for 4 with other creatures get -1/-1. I like this one a lot. I'm a big fan of Knight of Souls Betrayal, the legendary enchantment out of Kamigawa block that gives all creatures -1/-1. I think Karavek is a nice add to decks that really want to control the field, especially if you're aiming to wipe out a lot of dorks or smaller creatures. It's a good way to kill off mana dorks. Then we've got a foil Daybreak Charger. Fun commons, Spellgorger weird. I like the prowess where you put a counter on it as opposed to just getting +1/+1 until end of turn. Truffle Snout, a lot of people really liking this art. Cute piggy boy. We've got Indulging Patrician, a vampire for 1 white/black, 1/4, flying lifelink, not bad. The beginning of your end step, if you gain 3 or more life this turn, each opponent loses 3 life. That's pretty decent. A little bit better in our format if it was at the beginning of each end step if you gain 3 or more life, but still a decent add to a lot of life gain-centric builds. We've got Jeskai Elder, a nice reprint. 1/2 prowess. Whenever it deals combat damage, draw a card, discard a card. Faith's Fetters. This is a nice reprint with Kev Walker's art on it out of original Ravnica block. Ooh, and our first mythic is one of my favorites out of the set, Terror of the Peaks. It's a 5/4 flying dragon for 5. Spells your opponent cast that target Terror of the Peaks cost an additional 3 life. So Lightning Bolt whenever an opponent tries to target it. And then whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, if Terror of the Peaks deals damage equal to that creature's power to any target. Now, I posted to Twitter that there is a combo with Terror of the Peaks and Legend out of Kamigawa block, Seki Seasons Hero or Seasons Past or something like that. I'll have a picture of it up here for everyone's reference, but it's a 2-card infinite combo where you can just ping the table down. Nice little finisher if you're running something like Tooth and Nail to go tutor each of them out. Really liking this a lot. Keep an eye out for it. I think it's going to do a lot of work in Commander. And we've got Epitaph Golem. Nice foil. Target card from your graveyard on the bottom of your library. While he's a little bit much at 5 mana, Epitaph Golem's a decent add to something like Grenzo Dungeon Warden to make sure that you're recycling cards to the bottom of your library and then pulling them back out with Grenzo. We've got Experimental Overload. Create an XX blue weird token. That's that weird token that we opened earlier. Where X is the number of instant and sorcery cards in your graveyard. Then you may return an instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. Exile Experimental Overload. Not bad for turning a self-mill deck or a spellslinger deck into a fat body while rebuying something. I wouldn't mind rebuying something like a Mizzix Mastery if it ends up in my yard. We've got Unsubstantiate. This is a solid budget option for anyone that would want to run something like Remand in their decks. It's nice and versatile, returning either a spell or a creature to its owner's hand. Bad. Warden of the Wood, 6 mana, 5/7 Vigilance. When it becomes the target of a spell or ability, you may draw 2 cards. Spell or ability an opponent controls. You may draw 2 cards. Not bad. I think it's decent and limited. Might not make much impact on our format. And then we've got Spore Web Weaver. 3 mana for a 1/4 reach, hexproof from blue. Whenever Spore Web Weaver is dealt damage, you gain 1 life and create a Saproling token. Saproling token that we opened earlier. Not bad. Decent value, decent body. A great way to keep going wide. If you're running a tokens deck, an Aristocrats deck with green, this is a nice little include. And then we've got a foil Skeleton Archer. Enters the battlefield, deal 1 damage to any target. And we've got a fancy looking mountain too. Damn, that is a hot looking mountain. Look at the way that it pops. That's great. And another soldier token. All right, Kitesail Freebooter. A nice reprint from Ixalan. A nice value. I like the exile card until it leaves battlefield creatures. They're decent, especially if you're reanimating them or reusing them. We've got another Twin Blade Assassins. We've got another new Shrine in Sanctum of the Fruitful Harvest. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, add X mana of any one color, where X is the number of shrines you control. Consider this a poor man's carpet of flowers, if you will. And we've got, the new Stuffy Doll equivalent here, Brash Taunter. 5 mana for 1/1 indestructible. Whenever it's dealt damage, it deals that much damage to target opponent, and it fights creatures. So great, and in the same colors as Blasphemous Act. If you've ever played in Return to Ravnica constructed formats, you'll know that Boros Reckoner was a big one for that damage redirection ability. Brash Taunter is in that same field. If you're planning on wiping the board, if you do a lot of damage to all players, all creatures with earthquake effects, whatever it may be, Brash Taunter is a good one to make even more use out of that. And we've got another Fiery Mountain too. Very nice. And I think the mountain might be my favorite of these that we've seen so far. But we have only seen the forest, the plains, and the mountain. Let's see what the island and the swamp look like, hopefully. I like Basri's Acolyte. I really do. Being able to put +1/+1 counters on each of up to 2 target creatures you control, not bad. If you're able to blink it, then it's a lot of value, making your guys a lot bulkier. Fungal Rebirth is another one that I like a lot. This is a good one that I've had my eye on. It's a 3 mana instant that rebuys something from your yard, much like an Eternal Witness would. But if you had a creature die this turn, or creature died this turn, so essentially it's the Morbid keyword out of Innistrad, then you create 2 tokens. So this is exactly what you want to be doing in green. And hey, if you lost something or an opponent lost something, then it's extra value for you. I really like this one a lot. Speaking of +1/+1 counters from Basri's Acolyte, we've got Basri's Solidarity. 2 mana sorcery to put a counter on each creature you control. Good if you're running synergies with +1/+1 counters. We've got Watcher of the Spheres. 2 mana, 2/2 flying. Creature spells with flying cost 1 less to cast. And whenever another creature with flying enters the battlefield, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Not bad, solid body. And we've got Containment Priest, a nice reprint that was originally printed in a Commander set. It's nice to see this one actually enter Standard as well. This is a good hate bearer to include in a lot of white decks. If Flash weren't already banned, I'd say that Containment Priest is a great way to counteract something like Flash Hulk, because Containment Priest stops the creatures that Hulk would bring onto the battlefield. Llanowar Visionary. This is a card that a lot of people were very interested in. It is both an Elvish Visionary and a Llanowar Mystic stapled onto the same card. And our uncommons in this pack are Skyway Sniper. Nice way to ping down creatures with flying. Gormand. A nice big demon that edicts everything. Makes opponents sacrifice a creature when it enters the battlefield, but costs you a creature when you sacrifice when it enters the battlefield. 5/5 flying trample that makes everybody sacrifice a creature. Very good. Don't underestimate a body like this. Oh, and we've got Wildwood Scourge, Hydra, another X casting cost. Hydra enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters, and whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are put onto another non-Hydra creature you control, put a +1/+1 counter on Wildwood Scourge. This would have been a rare years ago. I'm talking even 5 years ago, this probably would have been a rare and would have had trample stapled onto it. But as it stands, this guy is really good with anything that gets +1/+1 counters on a regular basis. For something in a +1/+1 counters deck, I'm thinking Forgotten Ancient. Essentially turns Wildwood Scourge into a Forgotten Ancient as well. And our rare for the pack is Teferi's Ageless Insight, 4 mana legendary enchantment. You would draw a card except for the first one you draw on each of your draw steps. Draw 2 cards instead. If anybody has seen how much I love Alhammarret's Archive, this is half of Alhammarret's Archive on a colored enchantment. If you're going to be running this, you'll probably want to run Alhammarret's Archive as well. Pretty nutty to get the multiplicative effects. Ooh, here's Chandra's Pyreling, special frame. 2 mana, 1/3. Whenever a source you control deals non-combat damage to an opponent, Chandra's Pyreling gets +1/+0 and gains double strike until end of turn. Hello. That turns into a threat very, very quickly. I like this one a lot in something like a Neheb the Eternal deck, where you want to be doing a lot of non-combat damage to your opponents. We've got a Fierce Empath, a fantastic reprint that should see a lot of play. Kinetic Augur, 4 mana for a Star 4 Trampler. Power equal the number of instants and sorcery cards in your graveyard. And whenever it enters the battlefield, you can discard 2 cards and draw that many cards. Discard up to 2 cards and draw that many cards. Interesting. And our rare is Transmogrify. Transmogrify is a polymorph. 4 mana sorcery, 3 in a red. Exile target creature. That creature controller reveals cards from the top of their library until they reveal a creature card. Then they put that card onto the battlefield and shuffle the rest of their library. So if you've ever seen Polymorph or something like Proteus Staff, this does the same thing, but in red. Then we've got a basic Plains to round us out. Okay, here we are, a third of the way through the box. All right, and we start off, our first uncommon is another new shrine. Sanctum of Stone Fangs. 2 mana at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase. Not your upkeep like many of the other shrines are, but at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, each opponent loses X life and you gain X life, where X is the number of shrines you control. Again, each opponent is something that we love to see in our format. This is likely one of the cards that's going to make Shrine Tribal work in Commander. And then we've got Silver Smote Ghoul, 3 mana for a 3/1 at the beginning of your end step. If you gain 3 or more life, that's a trigger that we've seen a few times already. Return Silvermoor Ghoul from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So always great to see another creature that you can cheat out if you're gaining life. I've already mentioned Aristocrat decks a few times, but things like Blood Artist or Zulaport Cutthroat, it's very easy to gain 3 life by sacrificing a couple of creatures in Silver Smoke Ghoul. Okay? And you can sacrifice Silver Smoke Ghoul itself for 1 and a black to draw a card. Some great value there. Our next uncommon is Tide Skimmer, 4 mana for a 2/3 flyer. Whenever you attack with 2 or more creatures with flying, draw a card. Not bad if you've got something like a flying tribal deck. And our rare is Chandra's Incinerator, 5 colorless and a red for a 6/6. And this spell costs X less to cast, where X is the total amount of non-combat damage dealt to your opponents this turn. It has trample. Whenever a source you control deals non-combat damage to an opponent, Chandra's Incinerator deals that much to target creature or planeswalker that player controls. Woo! Talk about value. I mentioned something like a Neheb the Eternal deck or even a Torbrand deck when we were looking at Chandra's Pyreling. Chandra's Incinerator, another great fit for those kind of decks. I like Pride Malkin a lot. Normally this effect, giving creatures you control with +1/+1 counters on them trample, comes at a lot higher of a cost. I think this one's a lot more efficient. I'm definitely going to play it in a few of my decks. We've got another Alpine Houndmaster. We've got a Conclave Mentor. 2 mana for a 2/2 whenever one or more +1/+1 counters we put on a creature you control. Put that many +1 on them instead. When it dies, you gain life equal to its power. This is a hardened scales on a body. Not bad at all. We've got Shipwreck Dowser as our next uncommon. 5 mana for a 3/3 prowess. Whenever it enters the battlefield, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. Decent. And we've got our second See the Truth of this box. Okay. First uncommon is Invigorating Surge. More +1/+1 counters. It's an instant, though. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control, then double the number of counters on it. I love this in my Calamax deck if I'm going for a more combat-heavy build. This quadruples the number of counters that would be on him. We've got Chrome Replicator, 5 mana for a 4/4. Whenever it enters the battlefield, if you control 2 or more non-land, non-token permanents with the same name as one another, create a 4/4 colorless construct. Not really doing a lot in our deck, in our format, unless you're running something like a clone build that uses real clones and not token copies. It's been it for now. We've got Quirion Dryad, 2 mana for a 1/1. Whenever you cast a spell that's white, blue, black, or red, put a +1/+1 counter on Quirion Dryad. So if you're running a multicolored +1/+1 counter deck, Quirion Dryad gets very big very quick. It's a good reprint. Oh, and we've got a legend. We've got Subira, Tool ZD Caravaneer, 3 mana for a 2/3 haste, 1 mana for another target creature with power 2 or less can't be blocked. This turn, 2 mana tap, discard your hand. Until end of turn, whenever a creature you control with power 2 or less deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. You love card draw engines in the command zone. This is a great way to helm up or enhance a weenie deck. Decent if you're running in Boros, because it is card draw for something that wants to be attacking. Discarding your hand is a downside, but if you're going wide, then you can definitely draw many cards. All right, and we've got a foil Frantic Inventory. Draw a card, then draw a card equal to the number of cards named Frantic Inventory in your graveyard. Not great in our format, of course. You're only ever going to have 1 Frantic Inventory. All right, we've got another Chandra's Pyreling. We've got a fancy-looking Teferi's Tutelage. This is a 3 mana enchantment. Whenever it enters the battlefield, draw a card and discard a card. Whenever you draw a card, target opponent mills 2. We now have, I think, 3 or 4 cards that do this. Whenever you draw a card, mill a card. Mind Erasure, Sphinx's Tutelage, and now Teferi's Tutelage. This is a good way to bulk up mill as an archetype in our format. We've got Dire Fleet Warmonger, 1 black-red. For a 3/3 Orc Pirate, at the beginning of combat on your turn, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, Dire Fleet Warmonger gets +2/+2 and trample until end of turn. Sacrifice Enabler. And our rare is Demonic Embrace, an aura that gives enchanted creature +3/+1, flying, and makes it a demon. And you can cast Demonic Embrace from your graveyard by paying 3 life and discarding a card, in addition to paying the 3 mana. It's a great way to make sure that auras aren't a big disadvantage in our format. I also like this because it turns things into demons, and that's a great way to trigger something like Liliana's Contract. All right, our first uncommon here is Garruk's Uprising, 3 mana enchantment. When Garruk's Uprising enters the battlefield, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, draw a card. I know very early in this video we talked about green drawing cards. Just another example here. Creatures you control have trample. Great way to give all creatures you control trample. This one fits into the Stonebrow deck that we tuned up a little while ago. And whenever a creature with power 4 or greater enters a battlefield under your control, draw a card. This is everything that green wants, folks. This is going to be a good include in a lot of decks in our format. We've also got Tempered Veteran, 2 mana for a 1/2. 1 and a tap, put a counter on target creature with a counter on it. Or 6 and tap, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Sorry, white, not the best return on investment. And then we've got Bolt Hound, 3 mana for a 2/2 haste. Whenever it attacks, other creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. This is a copy of the Battle Cry ability from old Shards block, I believe. We'll have an example of Signal Pest up here. And then we've got, the good art, Peer into the Abyss. 7 mana sorcery. Target player draws cards equal to half the number of cards in their library and loses half their life round up. Normally that's round down, but this is round up this time. This is a 2-card combo to kill a player outright with something like Underworld Dreams. This is a very interesting one. I'd love to see it in Nekasar decks, for instance. And then we've got a foil rare. Our foil rare is a Temple of Triumph, the first temple that we've seen out of the box. All right, moving on with the Shrine Train, we've got Sanctum of Shattered Heights. 1, discard a land or shrine card. Sanctum of Shattered Heights deals X damage to target creature or planeswalker, where X is the number of shrines you control. Decent way to turn lands or excess shrines, again, excess shrines not a problem in our format, but into spot removal. We've got Liliana's Devotee. Other zombies you control get +1/+0. At the beginning of your end step, if a creature died this turn, you may pay 1 and a black. If you do, make a zombie token. Not bad. Again, if you're running a zombie deck, then it's a good include. And Reign of Revelation, 4 mana to draw 3 cards and then discard a card. Come a long way from things like Thirst for Knowledge. And our second legendary is Nyan, Esteemed Speaker. Azorius, white and blue, for 2/1 flash. When Nyan, Esteemed Speaker, enters the battlefield, return another target creature you control to its owner's hand. If you do, gain life equal to that creature's converted mana cost. And then for 1 white and a blue, tap to discard a legendary card to draw 2 cards. I can see Nyan doing some work, if not in our format, then in maybe Humans in Modern. Okay. Our first uncommon in this pack, Light of Promise, 3 mana for an aura. Enchanted creature has, whenever you gain life, put that many +1/+1 counters on this creature. Solid way of making creatures very big. If you're running a Soul Sisters deck or a life gain build, this is a great way to make a creature into a Najani's Chosen. But this is, of course, not when you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on it. It's put that many +1/+1 counters on it. So the more life you're gaining, like doubling your life, for instance, you put that many counters on a creature. Not bad. Tavern Swindler, a nice little reprint. Flipping coins in a standard set. Not something I thought I'd see again. We've got another Silver Smoke Ghoul. And our rare is a mythic Baneslayer Angel. Another fantastic reprint. Good job, Wizards, making these more available. Baneslayer Angel. Keyword soup. If you're making something like an Audric Lunarch Marshall deck, this is a great add. We've got another Tavern Swindler in this pack. I'm getting swindled. We've got Unleash Fury, double the power of target creature until end of turn. I mentioned the +1/+1 counter doubler instant in a Calamax deck. Unleash Fury is another great one too. If you're running a Voltron deck, then this is a good finisher. We've got another Tolarian Kraken. And we've got an Azusa, Lost But Seeking. Another great reprint. Get these while you can, folks. Azusa is almost a staple in lands decks in our format. All right. Onto this pack, we've got a Furious Rise, another recent reprint. We've got a Waker of Waves, a 7-mana 7/7 whale. Creatures your opponents control get -1/-0, and you can pay 2 and discard Waker of Waves to look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand, and the others in your graveyard. Nice if you want to fill up your yard with targets to reanimate. Living Dead this one out. And we've got another Aven Gagglemaster. We opened a foil one earlier. Ooh, and another legendary. We've got Vito, Thorn of the Dusk Rose. I mentioned this one in this week's tune-up for Edgar Markov. Fantastic addition to decks that want to be gaining life. And if you're running the Sanguine Bond Exquisite Blood combo, Vito slots right in. All right, we start off with a Cultivate in this pack, another staple of our format. Make sure to get them while you can. Should go in just about every green deck. Just about. We've got Hellkite Punisher, 7 mana for a 6/6 flyer with fire breathing. Riddle Form, this is another reprint. And another mythic, Elder Gargaroth. 5 mana for a 6/6 Vigilant Reach Trample. Whenever Elder Gargaroth attacks or blocks, choose one. Make a 3/3 beast token, or gain 3 life, or draw a card. If you thought that green mythics weren't going to be pushed anymore, then welcome to the big time. We've got a Witch's Cauldron, another Quirion Dryad, another Bolt Hound, and our rare is 9 lives. This 3 mana white enchantment has Hexproof. If a source would deal damage to you, prevent that damage. Put an incarnation counter on 9 lives. If there are 9 or more counters on it, exile it. When it leaves the battlefield, you lose the game. A lot of people talking about this with Solemnity for an I Can't Die combo. Just be careful of things that make you sacrifice enchantments. Oh, and we've got a Borderless Art Massacre Worm. Talk about a good get there. Look at that fancy art. Get that even closer. Ooh, that's a handsome looking Massacre Worm. This is a reprint that was on my list to beg to be reprinted, as it's been climbing up in price. And look at that. It is a handsome looking card. I like this one in decks that kill creatures very often. Good win con. Stapled to a body. I advocate ensuring that your decks have non-combat ways to kill your opponents. This does exactly that. Ooh, we've got a fancy frame. Garruk's Uprising. I like this one. This one's going to go in some of my decks. We've got Angelic Ascension. An instant, exile target creature or planeswalker. Its controller creates a 4/4 white flying angel. This is White's attempt at another equivalent of a generous gift or a beast within. But it's just creature or planeswalker, not any permanent, so it loses a little bit of an effect. Still versatile removal. We've got a Lore Scale Quaddle, another interesting reprint. And we've got a card that I was excited for that I included in my list of cards that I'm really excited for in this set, in Liliana's Standard Bearer. 3 mana for a 3/1 flash zombie knight. When it enters the battlefield, draw X cards, where X is the number of creatures that died under your control this turn. A lot of great ways to take advantage of this. I like reanimating this with something like a Living Death or a Living End. I like flashing this in after a board wipe. It's all very interesting. Great in Aristocrats decks too. Okay, we've got another Furious Rise. We've got Bad Deal. This art reminds me of the scene from Predator, where the 2 guys grasp hands. This is 6 mana, draw 2 cards. Each opponent discards 2 cards. Each player loses 2 life. So this is a lot like the 3 mana scry 2, draw 2, lose 2, but it makes opponents discard. So it's a draw 2, lose 2 that also deals 2 damage to each opponent and is a mind rot as well. So it does a lot of things on 1 card, which may be efficient if these are all things that you want to be doing. 6 mana is still a hefty price tag. We've got Enthralling Hold, 5 mana, enchant creature. You can't choose an untapped creature as this spell's target as you cast it. You control it. So essentially, gain control of target tapped creature. Oh, and speaking of planeswalkers, we've got our first one in Bazriket. This is an interesting new planeswalker and his first appearance. 3 loyalty for 1 white, putting counters on target creatures and gaining them indestructible. So everything that white wants to do. -2, whenever 1 or more non-token creatures attack this turn, create that many 1/1 white soldier creature tokens. Tapped and attacking. So kind of like Najeela's ability. And then -6, so 4 turns if you keep plussing him, you get an emblem with, at the beginning of combat on your turn, create a 1/1 white soldier token, then put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. So it's kind of like a Cathar's Crusade that also makes tokens and triggers. Very interesting. Oh, and we were talking about what the rest of these fancy basics look like. Here's the fancy swamp. Very interesting. I love the purple motif on these fancy ones. Okay, 1/3 left. Let's get cracking. We've got another Sanctum of Stone Fangs, another Aven Gagglemaster, Carrion Grub, 4 mana for 0/5. Carrion Grub gets +X/+0, where X is the greatest power among creature cards in your graveyard, and whenever it enters the battlefield, mill 4 cards. Not bad if you're looking to self-mill or reanimate, and we've got a fancy frame Liliana Standard Bearer. Not bad. Again, this is a card that I was very much looking forward to, and I'm happy to get a fancy frame one as well. All right, we've got Meteorite, decent little reprint. Griffin Airy, 2 mana enchantment at the beginning of your end step. If you gain 3 or more life this turn, there's that trigger again. Create a 2/2 flying Griffin. Not bad, not bad. If you're gaining life, makes you bodies. Brolfist Oak, which we've seen already. We've got a Gadrak, the Crown Scourge. This is another one that I was excited about. I want to build around this one. This is all about board wipe, making you treasure tokens. I am a sucker for treasure tokens, especially in decks that can take advantage of it with something like Rebel in Riches or with Dockside Extortionist. So I'm excited to see this one. Oh, and then we've got another foil rare, second one of the box, in Basri's Lieutenant. This is 4 mana for a 3/4 foil fancy frame, vigilance, protection from multicolored. When Basri's Lieutenant enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Whenever Basri's Lieutenant or another creature you control dies, if it had a +1/+1 counter on it, create a 2/2 white knight creature token with vigilance. So that's interesting that it doesn't say non-token creature dies. Because if you've got Basri's Lieutenant and something that puts counters on creatures as they enter the battlefield, you essentially get infinite tokens. If you can sacrifice them, then you get infinite death tokens and enter the battlefield tokens. Something like a Cathar's Crusade that we mentioned earlier. Whenever that knight comes in, it puts a +1/+1 counter on everything, making it that much bigger. I like that one. I think that there's combo potential there. All right, we start off this pack with Miscast. This is another one that I pointed out in my M21 video. This is a great cheap counter spell. I think that this is going to see play in higher power decks at higher power tables. They want to get counter spells as cheap as possible, and this one is narrower, but makes you pay more for it than a Spell Pierce would. Again, I think that this one slots into some existing decks. Got another Tide Skimmer, another Watcher of the Spheres, and a Feline Sovereign. Pretty kitty. 3 mana for a 2/3. Other cats you control get +1/+1 and have protection from dogs. Whenever one or more cats you control deal combat damage to a player, destroy up to 1 target artifact or enchantment that player controls. Of course, the art is the cat knocking something off of a table. Very in flavor. I like that a lot. All right, we start off with a Rewind reprint. This is another decent one that sees quite a bit of play in our format. Volcanic Geyser, which is an instant speed fireball-esque card. Anything that deals damage at instant speed is always pretty decent. We've got Siege Striker, 3 mana for a 1/1 double strike. Whenever Siege Striker attacks, you may tap any number of untapped creatures you control. Siege Striker gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each creature tapped this way. So Siege Striker does exactly that. It helps break through sieges. If you're going wide and can't attack with everything because they've got a Ghostly Prison or a Propaganda out, then you can tap all of those creatures to make Siege Striker that much bigger. And if you can give him Trample at the same time, then a great way to bust through really hard lines. And we've got another Subira. This is our second in the box. First up, we've got a Traitorous Greed, 4 mana for a sorcery, gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap that creature, it gains haste until end of turn, add 2 mana of any one color. So it's a threaten effect that makes you mana, repays you for it. We've got Soul Seer, badass. 3 mana instant. Whenever Soul Seer deals 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker, that permanent loses indestructible until end of turn. We've got another Angelic Ascension. And we've got, Baron Tolarian Archmage. Mono blue legend, 3 mana for a 2/2. Whenever Baron Tolarian Archmage enters the battlefield, return up to 1 other target creature or planeswalker to its owner's hand. At the beginning of your end step, if a permanent was put into your hand from the battlefield this turn, draw a card. So this guy heads up a bounce tribal deck, or fits within the 99. I think that he fits better within the 99, getting you some more value from bouncing stuff to your own hand. I think that he does fit really well in something like a Hulain deck that wants to be bouncing permanents pretty often. More value from bouncing permanents. Okay, starting off this pack, we've got another Kitesail Freebooter, a Vryn Wingmare, which is another great hate bear, pseudo hate bear in white. This one's downshifted from its original printing in Magic Origins, from rare down to uncommon. This is a good one to pick up if you want to prevent your opponents from going off too quickly. We've got a Leafkin Avenger, 4 mana for a 4/3. Tap to add green to your add green for each creature you control with 4 or more power. Then you can pay 8, 7 colorless and a red. Leafkin Avenger deals damage equal to its power to target player or planeswalker. Interestingly enough, if you can create infinite mana, then Leafkin Avenger is a way for you to win the game. I'm thinking Niv Mizzet Reborn food chain decks at more higher competitive levels can include Leafkin Avenger for infinite mana loops. And then we've got a non-foil Temple of Triumph to go with our foil one from earlier. We've got another Epitaph Golem in this pack. Here's the White Shrine that we haven't seen yet. 1 mana for Legendary Shrine. 6 mana, 5 colorless and a white to tap target creature. This ability costs 1 less to activate for each shrine you control. So if you control each shrine you control, interesting. So I think it counts itself to automatically discount this by 1. So it's 5 mana to start with. But if you control it and 4 other shrines, it's just white to tap creatures. Not a bad way of trying to keep you alive. Got Battle Rattle Shaman. This is an uncommon that's been reprinted to death. And our rare is Stormwing Entity. 5 mana for a 3/3, but it costs 3 less to cast if you cast an instant or sorcery spell this turn. It has flying and prowess, and when it enters the battlefield, you scry 2. Not bad at all if you're casting free spells. Keep that in mind. And then we've got a foil Bad Deal. We start off this pack with another Vryn Wingmare, another Indulging Patrician. We've got a Havoc Jester. This is a new one we haven't seen. 5 mana for a 5/5. Whenever you sacrifice a permanent, it deals 1 damage to any target. Oh, and then we've got Gaara the Diplomat. This is one that a lot of people are excited to build around in our format. 4 mana for a 2/4 lifelinker. Whenever an opponent attacks with creatures, if 2 or more of those creatures were attacking you and or a planeswalker you control, draw a card. That's right, it's a white card that says draw a card. And I think the more important line is whenever an opponent casts their second spell each turn, draw a card. A lot of value to be had from Gaara here. I think even the people that play at higher power level tables are excited about having some card draw in white. We've got another Fancy Frame Teferi's Protege. We've got another Experimental Overload. We've got a Tormod's Crypt, a great reprint that is interesting to see in this set, but is very, very versatile graveyard hate that any deck can run. If you have a meta that runs anything that uses its graveyard very heavily, and you aren't in a color that can use more efficient graveyard hate, like blue or red, run a Tormod's Crypt. Got another Carrion Grub, and our rare is a Maze Mind Tome. 2 mana artifact, you tap to put a page counter on it and scry 1, or 2 tap, put a counter on it and draw a card. There are 4 or more page counters on it, exile it, and gain 4 life. So a little bit of card draw and draw fixing for the colors that can't really do that much. Ooh, and here's our Fancy Island. This is the first Fancy Island we've seen. I like that one a lot too. That's a handsome one. All right, we start off with a Palladium Mirror, another decent reprint. Battle Rattle Shaman. Eliminate. This is a decent one for our format too. This is 2 mana, 1 and a black for an instant. Destroy target creature or planeswalker with a converted mana cost of 3 or less. If you remember back to the Onslaught days, there was an uncommon named Smother that did this with just creatures, converted mana cost 3 or less, and saw a lot of play. So this might see modern play to get rid of things like Wrenn and 6 or Liliana of the Veil or Liliana of the Last Hope, or even 3 mana Teferi. And interestingly enough, back to back, we get another Maze Mind Tome. Not much more to be said. That wasn't just immediately said about it. And of course, we do have a foil Life Goes On. No complaining, I suppose life does go on. We start off with another Obsessive Stitcher. A new one, Falconer Adept, 4 mana for a 2/4. Whenever it attacks, create a white bird creature token with flying, tapped and attacking. Bodies, bodies, bodies. That's what white does. We've got another Waker of the Waves, and we've got a Primal Might. Sorcery for X and a green. Target creature you control gets +X/+X until end of turn. It then fights up to one target creature you don't control. And we've got another foil rare in Runed Halo. This is another reprint that a lot of people were asking for. It got pretty expensive for a while. It's nice to see it again. White for an enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, choose a card name. You have protection from the card name. In our format, this is very interesting because if you've got an opponent that's looking to kill you with their commander or looking to combo out through damage, you can use Runed Halo to stop that. Though a lot of people might not be in favor of you shutting off their win cons. And we're looking at our last pack of the box. Let's hope that we've got another something good. 3 foil rares so far and full art mythic, not bad. We've also got an alt art Liliana standard bearer, so some decent special stuff out of this pack for sure. Hey, we've got another Traitorous Greed. We've got another Sanctum of Calm Waters. We've got the recently printed and now reprinted Thrashing Brontodon. And another Containment Priest. It's our second Containment Priest in the box as well. Oh well, I suppose we can't all hit the lottery there on alt art Grim Tutors or Fairies, but not a bad box nonetheless. Again, really impressed with the number of foil rares we've pulled here. And the Massacre Worm, I think, is the big hit in the box too. At the end of the video, we will total up what this box raked in as of time of recording. And as I mentioned, thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. We're going to open up 2 Jumpstart boosters. Jumpstart isn't out until late July, but we've got 2 20-card packs here. Let's see what kind of themes we open up in these boosters. With our Garruk theme pack with a Garruk Unleashed. It's not bad. That's a 4 mana, 4 loyalty Garruk commander. +1, up to 1 target creature gets +3/+3 and gains trample until end of turn. -2, create a beast token. Then if an opponent controls more creatures than you, put a loyalty counter on Garruk. And then -7, you get an emblem with, at the beginning of your end step, you may search your library for a creature card and put it onto the battlefield. Then shuffle your library. Wow. The rare in the pack is Garruk's Harbinger. 3 mana for a 4/3 hexproof from black. Whenever Garruk's Harbinger deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, look at that many cards from the top of your library. You may reveal a creature card or Garruk planeswalker from among them and put them into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Value, value, value. 4 power with hexproof from black for 3 mana. That draws you cards. All right, so that's our first Jumpstart booster. Not bad getting a Garruk Unleashed and a Garruk's Harbinger out of that one. Let's see what our second theme is. Is Well Red. Oh, interesting. So this one's going to be blue. You can see here in the corner. All right, Well Red. Wow, and we start off with a Rhystic Study. Not bad at all, folks. Rhystic Study, a staple of our format, without a doubt. We've got a Polarian Kraken, a Curiosity, an Onerophage, a 4 mana Squid Illusion. Whenever you draw a card, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Much like the one that makes tokens as well. Suspicious Bookcase. Target creature can't be blocked. Got our Thriving Land, Thriving Isle. but not bad for our first look at Jumpstart. All right, folks, looking at a total of all of this, the total value of the box is, we're going to see it up here. Let me know in the comments if you liked this video. Do share and subscribe, and we'll do more stuff like this in the future. Until next time, thanks, good luck, and have fun.